200 radio stations are pretty much finished and will become left-leaning radio stations. Now, guys, for those that might not know, George Soros, the left-leaning lunatic, the richest guy in the world, probably one of the most powerful guys in the world, that wants things in his favor and moves things in his favor just by throwing money at it. He just recently bought 200 radio stations, and the FCC here in the United States fast-tracked his purchases of those 200 radio stations through faster. They took a shortcut for him. They fast-tracked everything that needed to be done for him right before the elections. Now, this guy, guys, is a dangerous man, and a lot of us know that. In fact, he hates Trump. He wants Kamala Harris to win. So he bought these stations right before the elections and also for future use purposes. So moving forward, we have 200 radio stations now that are going to start spitting propaganda nonsense, far left-leaning propaganda nonsense. George Soros also has his son who's in power. I think his son is in charge of like the TV division, digital communications or something like that. Nonetheless, now we have two left-leaning lunatics throwing money at people so that they can get things swayed in their direction. The radio thing is bad only because, again, the power that he used to fast-track them, it is so bad. In fact, the commissioner of the FCC, Brendan Carr, even spoke out against it. This guy's probably going to lose his job, but he doesn't give a shit because he is disgruntled about the whole thing. He goes, how did they fast-track 200 radio stations, which should have took a few months? But instead, they did it in a week or so, or a couple of days. They fast-tracked it for him, to purchase it for him. If you or I wanted to purchase a radio station, it would have taken months to do it. This guy, 200? And of course, before the elections, so that they can sway whoever they need to be swayed. Whoever needs to be swayed for this election, that's what they're using. They're going to use those 200 radio stations. Now, the amount of people that him buying 200 radio stations is going to affect is going to be 165 million Americans who still listen to radio, which I was a little surprised. I was like, all right, I thought it was like way less than that. 165 million Americans still listen to radio, and 165 million Americans are going to try to be convinced of whatever far left-leaning bullshit they want. Like Kamala Harris is great, Kamala Harris is your choice for president. That is the nonsense they are going to push. One of the problems that I did see was Glenn Beck, who is on radio, and a lot of other guys who are podcasting radio as well, are probably going to lose this battle unless they do something very, very drastic, which you know what I'm leaning at. People like George Soros need to be dealt with in a specific way. And that way is not kumbaya-ing the shit, if you get what I'm saying. So where is this going to go? Well, again, Hitler did something very similar to this, if not the same thing. Maybe he didn't buy it, but he definitely turned radio stations in Germany for German propaganda. Russia's doing the same thing. You can only get Russian propaganda. You can't get anything else in Russia. A lot of countries do it, in fact. They only want you to know what's happening there. Radio right now, guys, is the last stronghold of conservatives talking about things openly. Not just right-leaning nonsense or left-leaning nonsense, just everything that's going on that we could be missing. So now, with Soros buying the 200 radio stations, whatever that is, we just lost 200 radio stations to propaganda. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there's thousands out there, not just 200, but 200 is a large bite, and he could be going after more. That's the other problem. So, of course, guys, now we have to be careful what we're listening to radio, because a lot of us went to radio to listen to conservative shit, because conservatives, for the most part, they do talk about the truth. Though I take everything with a grain of salt these days, because you never know. Left-leaning people want to talk about their bullshit. Right-leaning people want to talk about their bullshit. I understand that. It is why I stand in the middle. I'm not that guy that's like, well, they said in this. I look at it for what it is. I try to read between the lines, and it's getting harder to read between the lines these days, especially with AI coming out there and just filtering a lot of shit out so that you can't listen to it. And then you got this guy buying 200 radio stations, so you won't be able to listen to certain radio stations anymore. I don't know what those radio stations are yet. I will get a list and see if I can find who's going to be affected by this. But other than that, guys, this is definitely not a good thing. because they already own the TV. They already telling us what to believe in and what not to believe in. Every TV show has some gay bullshit propaganda on it. Every TV show. I'm watching Will Trent. First season, awesome. Second season, everything is pronouns this and homos that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why can't we just tell a story? And if there happens to be a gay character in it, okay. If there happens to be a conservative right-leaning dude, all right. But when a conservative right-leaning dude is in one of these shows, he's considered an extremist and a racist right out of the gates. And homophobic, all in one lump. Just lump the dudes together. So, of course, TV is corrupt now. And a lot of us are old enough to make the distinction in what's going on. I could look at TV and go, yeah, that's propaganda bullshit. But a lot of these kids today, they can't. Though my kids are looking at the shit and they're seeing it. They're like, why is this always in the stories? I go, you're finally picking up, huh? So, granted, this last generation of kids, of conservatives and or Republicans, that's it after these kids. These kids are the dope. Our grandkids might make it through under the radar, but after that, I think it's going to be gone. Because they're going to be so brainwashed by the shit between radio and TV, it's going to be bad. America is toast if we don't start fighting back. If we don't start fighting back against people like Soros, and again, not through signing bills and waivers and shit like that, and fucking waving signs in the air, no Soros on radio. Those days are over with. Something more drastic has to happen for us to get back this country. And it's not standing in the streets protesting. Politicians do not care. They only care about their pockets. Every move they have made in the last 20 years, it's been about lining their pockets up. Other than that, guys, this is The Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.